and welcome back to Lady Jane Books. Today I'm doing the last 10 Books Tag. Before we get started, I have been so remiss on catching up on my tags. I feel horrible about it too. I'm always afraid I'm going to miss if somebody tagged me in something, which would absolutely break my heart. And I've also been away for a little while, so I have no idea who's tagged me in what. So before we get started, if I could please ask my dear viewers that if you tagged me in anything recently that I haven't done, leave a comment below with the name of the tag and make sure I didn't miss it, because that would be just awful. So today I am starting to do a little bit of catch up with my tags, and I'm starting with the last 10 books tag. I was tagged by one of my all-time favorite booktube buddies, Mason from Mason in the Dark. I do not talk about Mason's channel enough. Mason has an incredible booktube channel. His reviews are honestly hysterical and honest. Wow, and he has just the best way of putting together his videos, in which they're so informative but incredibly entertaining. So definitely go check out his channel at Mason in the Dark. Mason, thank you so much for tagging me. I'm so happy that I finally got around to the last 10 books tag. So let's get started. Number 1, what was the last book you didn't finish? For this, I'm going with Dead Leaves by Keelan Patrick Burke. Jane has a lot of ambition, and sometimes she gets great ideas that just cannot be executed. And Dead Leaves by Keelan Patrick Burke was one of these great ideas. I have been wanting to read this for a while. It's a short story horror collection centering on fall and Halloween time, and I have always wanted to read it around spooky season. So this year I got the brilliant idea of reading the 9 short stories every day up to Halloween for 9 days. And that lasted one whole day. So I was so disappointed that I didn't keep up with it. It's still on my TBR for next year. It was so good of what I did read of it. But in all honesty, I did not finish Dead Leaves by Keelan Patrick Burke. Number 2, what was the last book that you reread? Now, I am not a big rereader. I don't like rereading books. I like looking into new adventures instead. But one book that I always read every year is How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. This is an annual tradition in the Lady Jane house. I curl up on Christmas Eve, I have a little bit of hot cocoa, and I read How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I love How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I love the book. I loved the old-time cartoon special, and I do sometimes even enjoy the Jim Carrey movie adaptation. But basically, Christmas time for Lady Jane means How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Number 3, what is the last book that you bought? I recently did a birthday book haul, so if you want to see the latest books that I bought, definitely go check that out. I'll link it in the description and in the cards. So I was trying to think back on my shopping trip, and I realized that the very last book of that haul that I handed to the cashier was The Case of the Murderous Dr. Cream by Dean Job. I am reading this as a buddy read with one of my all-time favorite booktube buddies, Carrie from Very Literary Carrie. I just started this, and oh my goodness, it is so good. It's a nonfiction book about a Victorian serial killer who was a doctor, and I'm loving it. So this was the last book that I bought, The Case of the Murderous Dr. Cream by Dean Job. Number 4, what was the last book you said you read but didn't? For this, we have to go back in time, ladies and gentlemen. We have to go all the way back to when little Lady Jane was a mere schoolgirl, and she had to read Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Now, the way we had to read this in high school was that we had to get to a certain chapter by a certain time in the semester, and I was honestly a little bit behind. I think I was like one section behind, and I was trying to play catch up. But one day I walked in and there was a pop quiz on Test of the D'Urbervilles. Oh, it was a reading check. I hated it. And to be totally honest, that was the worst grade I had ever received in my life. I think I got like a resounding 30% on that quiz. Oh, that is bad. So I'm not sure if that's technically saying I did read it when I didn't, or I was supposed to read. So yes, it was a little bit of a temporary disaster, but I did end up catching up, and I finished Test of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy on time. And quite frankly, Test of the D'Urbervilles is now one of my all-time favorite books. So it all worked out in the end. Number 5, what was the last book that you wrote in the margins of? For this one, I'm going with Phantom of the Opera. I have given this as a gift to a very special friend of mine, and we grew up making memories with Phantom of the Opera. We loved the musical, we loved the score, we just would sing it all the time, and it was basically our entire childhood. So a couple of years ago, I bought her a copy of the book, and I wrote in little like messages and little like memories that we'd have in the margins, and I gave it to her for a gift. And that's actually something I've done throughout the years. I'll take a copy of a book that someone likes or that we have special memories about, and I'll go through and I'll write stories and memories and say, oh, do you remember this? And like little inside jokes. And I personally think it becomes a very special gift. Number 6, what was the last book that you had signed? I honestly have never had a book signed. Right before the pandemic, I was supposed to go to an event where Sarah J. Maas was going to do a book signing, and I was going to pack up all of my Court of Thorns and Roses books, and I was so excited to meet her and get, all my books signed. But then, of course, COVID hit. So that got canceled, and my books now remain unsigned. Number 7, what was the last book that you lost? I don't think I technically lost it. I believe it's in storage somewhere. But for the life of me, I cannot find my childhood copy of The Velveteen Rabbit. I absolutely loved the story as a kid. I love the illustrations. It's really nostalgic for me. And I thought I had it on my bookshelves, and when I went to look for it a few years ago, it wasn't there. So more than likely, it's probably packed up with a lot of other little childhood memorabilia of mine, but I'm really hoping I did not lose The Velveteen Rabbit. Number 8, what was the last book that you had to replace? For this, I'm going with my extra copy of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. If you are a Lady Jane fan, you know that I had bought a paperback copy of Rebecca before they did the redesign for the Netflix thing, because I wanted that really beautiful red satin background, and somehow it got damaged. There's a little tiny tear at the top of it, and being a perfectionist, that's just not going to work for Lady Jane. So I actually went out and I bought another identical copy of the same exact book. So it is a replacement, but now I just have the 2 copies of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Number 9, what was the last book you had an argument over? This sounds very aggressive. I don't go around just having arguments with people about books, but I think the last book that I disagreed with somebody over was They Wish They Were Us. Now, I have a rant on this book. It was not a favorite. I will link that in the description if you're interested to see my reaction to it. But I believe I mentioned it to somebody in passing recently, and they were floored that I didn't like it. They thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we just had a little bit of a discussion about it. So it's not technically an argument, but They Wish They Were Us continues to be a pretty controversial book for Lady Jane books. And number 10, what was the last book that you could not get a hold of? For this one, I'm going with A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 4th book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. If you are a Lady Jane fan, then you know that I pre-ordered this book because I love A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I was supposed to get it the day it released, and my mailman was not having it. It was actually delayed for a couple of weeks, and I was so mad because my credit card got charged, but I did not have the book in hand, and I paid extra. It was a whole type of issue. So I was so upset that I did not get A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas in a timely manner. I am pretty sure I am incredibly late to the party with this tag, so I'm not going to tag anybody specifically, but if you want to do the last 10 book tags, be sure to mention it and I'll go watch your video. And that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is so good. It's like freezing cold. I'm here with my warm tea talking to my favorite booktube buddies. Oh my goodness. Lady Jane's living her best life. But I did not finish House of Leaves. No, I'm reading House of Leaves, Jane. Wow, keep up. All the leaves. The leaves are messing with me. It is so windy. I don't know if you can hear, but it's literally like shaking my home. I honestly love the illustrations of how the Grinch stole Christmas. I almost said how a Grinch stole Christmas. How a Grinch. No, Jane. But I did think back on that shopping trip and try to remember which was the last book that I actually handed to the cashier, and that was The Murderous Case of Dr. Cream by... I didn't do it right again. I will... You know when I'll get this title right? When I'm finished with the book. That's it. When I'm like done with the book, that's when I'll get it right. I really hope nobody has noticed that I have no idea how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Job or Job, I'm not sure, but we're just gonna roll with it. Number 4, what was the last book you said you read? Oh, I'm getting the sunshine now. I'm gonna see if this works. Yeah. The sunshine.